Senator Bernie Sanders heads into the South Carolina primary as the clear frontrunner, but today he is facing backlash after comments he made about communist leader Fidel Castro.
You know, when Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right, and we condemn that. Unlike Donald Trump, let's be clear, I do not think that Kim Jong-un is a good friend. I don't trade love letters with a murdering dictator. Vladimir Putin, not a great friend of mine.
So let's bring back our CBSN political reporter, Caitlin Huey-Burns. She is in Charleston with Republican strategist Terry Sullivan and Democratic strategist Robby Mook. Caitlin?
Thanks, Tanya. Well, Robby and Terry, I'm so glad to have you guys here. You've been back in the debate halls before campaign, so it's good to have you on set. You can kind of tell us how everything goes on in there. Yeah, much less pressure over on this end. You heard the comments from Bernie Sanders in that 60 Minutes interview, and you're seeing a lot of reaction. Donna Shalala is the congresswoman from South Florida representing a Republican turned Democratic district. She says on Twitter, Senator Sanders needs to take time to talk to her constituents before he decides to sing the praises of murderous tyrants like Fidel Castro. Robby, I want to ask you, you know these House races, you know the presidential contests. Are Democrats going to be concerned with Bernie Sanders on the top of the ticket in those battleground districts?
Well, obviously these House candidates have to calibrate their campaigns. Most of them are running for re-election this time, you know, with depending on who the nominee is. Look, I'm less worried on this specific comment with Castro. We'll chew through it and then we'll move on to the next thing. I do think for the Sanders campaign, though, they have an important assignment over the next few weeks if he's going to be the nominee, and that is this. You know, we often like to compare Trump and Sanders because Trump says really controversial things and people are then asked about them and have to respond. But they typically aren't about substance. Bernie has a lot of policy positions out there that are very new. And I think he needs to help these local candidates, you know, on all different parts of the ballot, come forward and react and explain. And so I think we saw some of this in the interview last night. I think he has some work to do to flesh this out. How do we pay for it? How does it really work? So that those candidates can then go respond to questions about his policies. It is different than Trump. You know, it's more substantive, and that the details matter in that sense.
Well, Terry, I want to talk a little bit about those comparisons, right? Robby is saying that Trump's going to paint all of these people essentially with a broad brush anyway, and so they do have opportunities. How do you think Republicans are looking at the rise of Bernie Sanders coming off that big win in Nevada?
I would caution. I think their Republicans are gleeful about the rise of Bernie Sanders right now, probably in the exact same way that Democrats were excited about the rise of Donald Trump exactly 4 years ago right now. And whistling past the graveyard is never a smart thing to do, and I think that's what's happening here. I think Bernie Sanders impassions his supporters and a lot of people, and he comes across as authentic. In the same way that Donald Trump does, and I think that this could be quite the matchup in November.
And Robby, on that note, do Democrats feel an urgency to help winnow the field, like right now? Do they need to get this to a two-person race between Bernie Sanders and maybe a more moderating force? What's the sense of urgency among Democrats, or what are they thinking?
I mean, obviously, it depends on who you talk to, right? You know, if you're Joe Biden, you want a head-to-head match. If you're Amy Klobuchar, you're maybe saying, hey, let's keep this thing open, let's keep looking. I do think for many reasons what happens here in South Carolina is going to matter a lot. If Biden wins and he came in second place in Nevada, it's going to be seen as some momentum for him, and then I think you're going to hear his supporters saying, everybody else clear out, you know, that we need a straight up contest between Bernie and Biden. I think if he doesn't win here, if Bernie does, I think you're going to see everybody stay in through Super Tuesday. And for some of these candidates, you know, they want to get that 15% threshold somewhere so that they can get delegates at the convention. You can make that argument for Klobuchar or for Warren. So, again, it depends on who you talk to, but boy, what happens here is going to matter a lot.
And Robby, on that note, I mean, how can Democrats kind of take a lesson from what Republicans went through?
You know, I don't know that there is much of a lesson other than it can really happen to you too. Okay. You know, there's no, hey, this is how you could have done it differently. These campaigns are in a really tough spot here because, as you saw with Michael Bloomberg, I mean, the folks on that stage weren't even attacking the guy in first place, which is a huge miscalculation, I think. But they've got to fight for their lane before they can worry about the other guy. And the So they've got to fight to get support from people who are most like them before they engage the ones who have a different viewpoint and are drawing from a different voting bloc. So there's a lot of three-dimensional chess going on here, and it's a tough thing for these campaigns, and I feel for them.
I want to talk about Bloomberg because he's going to be on the debate stage again tomorrow night. He had a really bad performance, I think we can all safely say. His campaign is saying that he's going to be more prepared this time. They've been kind of hunkered down, practicing for this. I want to ask the both of you, kind of what do you make of Bloomberg's campaign? Can he get a second chance tomorrow night?
I think it's been a terribly miscalculated campaign from day one to think that you can come in and that paid TV is going to buy you the presidency.
So since we're here in South Carolina, the Biden campaign has been talking about South Carolina being the fireball for months and months and months. If they don't do well in the early states, they can come to South Carolina and make up the ground. Robby, first to you, how critical is this state for Joe Biden? And do you anticipate Bernie Sanders actually doing well here too?
Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, it just is. They've set that expectation. The demographics, where it's 2/3 African American, are such that if his strategy is going to work out for Super Tuesday, he's got to do well here. Here's the thing. When you're in these primaries, direction matters. So if you're in a given week and there's a set of contests coming up, if you have the wind behind your back and the numbers are moving in your direction, that's just better than the other way around. And the fact for Biden is his numbers have been going down, Bernie's are going up. So if I were them, I don't love directionally where this is going, but we'll just have to see.
If Joe Biden doesn't win here, his campaign's over. And frankly, if Bernie wins here, every other Democrat can pack up their stuff and go home. I mean, like I said, he is winning consistently in almost every single Super Tuesday state right now that is not that far away. Even if Biden wins, I think you're still looking at a Bernie nomination, but I think if he loses here, it's the end of it for all of them.
Yeah, and Terry makes a really important point. There's so little time. It's just a few days. The news media really matters. What are we talking about? And so if we're talking about Bernie Sanders' exceptional win, that literally cuts out the ability for Biden to break through about, hey, don't forget about me. Right. And so I think I totally agree. It's going to be really, really hard.
It's all about momentum.
Bernie doesn't. Bernie wins here. Yeah, it's really hard for Biden.
It's all about momentum. Bernie's got the momentum, and Joe Biden doesn't.
Well, we'll stay tuned for tomorrow night. And Super Tuesday, as you note, is right around the corner. Yep. So maybe we'll have some results by then. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you guys here. Tanya, back to you.
Caitlin, thank you so much.